My name is Lolo Puzzlo, and this is Media Delta. Alright, so this is going to be a fun episode, because, just to give a spoiler, this movie did not... I got something what I wasn't expecting out of this movie, and which is interesting because it's the fun thing of you go into a movie kind of with certain expectations, because this was kind of, I don't know how big of a movie it is now, but when this movie came out, this was a huge thing. We are talking about the 2000 adaptation of the 1942 Chinese novel Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. The adaptation was done by Ang Lee, who is responsible for a lot of, I'd say, well-known movies.
Hulk.
I was gonna say also Brokeback Mountain.
Don't insult with Hulk like that.
God, but yes. Was Gemini Man the? That's not the one I'm thinking of.
If it's the Will Smith,
If the Will Smith is the movie. That's not the one that I'm thinking of. That what's a zombie movie? Am I thinking of the Bye Bye Man?
No, the Bye Bye Man is some stupid folklore level kind of thing, and it's also as bad as the name sounds. Will Smith and what?
Will Smith and Gemini Man, but like never.
Yeah, regardless. We are talking about
Bye Bye
Ang
Man
Lee's.
Gave us the pee pee poo poo man, and that's all I need to know. But go on.
We're talking about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And as you heard, I was not the only one who watched this. So please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Axe, and I'm here to crash the pacing of this movie.
Hi, I'm Carnival, and I want my Kung Fu ham back.
Hi, I'm Torpid Typus, and I'm here for white people enjoying watered down versions of otherwise interesting genres.
Congratulations, you just heard the entire episode.
That was fun, everybody. Goodbye.
God. Now I think we should go at least a little bit more to this because, God, yeah, this movie was everywhere when this came out. Like,
This was the shit.
yeah,
At the time.
and then
It was a blockbuster, straight up.
yeah, and then you watch it now, and it's like, man, this is a lot of.
Hey, some of it was good.
Like,
Yeah, some of it was good.
No, we got to. We have to make sure when we talk about this movie, we're talking about things as the entire plot basically worthless, but the actual choreography and stunt team, with one exception, did phenomenal work of executing basics in really well. Like, let's just put that out right there on the table.
Yeah. Which actually, before we kind of go anymore, I think we should probably just get this, like, probably do our normal round table a little bit. Does anyone want to go first? Because none of us had seen this before, correct?
I've seen this before.
Okay.
I just forgot everything about it, which kind
Fair
of
enough.
says a lot.
But I'd be willing to go first.
All right.
So I'm a big fan of wuxia novels and film in general, and all their related genres of Chinese literature. So I'm going into this. It's like, oh, hey, this is made it big. Why not? Let's see what this is like. And then it's like watching this, as like Torpid has said, is like, I see. This is why the Academy liked this. Completely and utterly bland and tasteless. Not even like, there's like, oh, sure, the people are out for revenge, but this is just like boring revenge and not like blood feud, hundreds of people going down for the fight. And it's like,
Revenge is pretty standard, though, in this genre, so, like...
yeah, but it's like, it's not interesting revenge. It's like...
No, that's what I mean, is it's like, that's standard in the genre. You can do better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, again, excellent stunt work, excellent fights, except for one, the final
One that everyone knows about, funny enough, yeah.
Yeah, the one that everyone knows about, but that's only because, again, this is what a bunch of white people basically saw the bamboo forest thing, and it's like, you guys thought this was the best? Yo, You have
no, it's great. Literally, the fight scene before it was in fact the best. But
yes,
I would argue the fight in the end was the best for me. But
yeah, the two fights that happen almost back to back. Well, technically, then the Bamboo Forest is like what, the third in a row?
Third in a row. It's just like you can see there's like those two were like the bamboo the in and the weapons fight are two excellent, and both you can make an easy case for both of those being the best. Then the bamboo fight happens, and then it's just all just the entire momentum of the film just collapses because of that fight. Is just so bad.
I do want to say I think the weapon fight is better. Okay, so like we can talk more about that in a little bit, but I think the choreography for the weapon fight is better, even if the in-fight is a bit more fun and lighthearted.
That's fair. Like I said, you can make an easy case for both of those, in my opinion. But so I think I would, because this movie doesn't deserve me to go a good spiel about talking wuxia as a genre. So
give me Thunderbolt Fantasy.
Yes, if we do that, then I'll actually talk about wuxia as a genre. But what I gotta say, break down is this like the film itself? I guess if you have no experience with wuxia as a beginner course, is like, yeah, this would be something that could get people interested. But even then, I would think Hero, which released in 2005,
so
is a better film for kind of bringing up like that kind of wuxia sensibilities than this is.
But actually, funnily enough, I've actually seen that movie, and that I do remember enjoying that movie like much more than I enjoyed this. I had to watch that for a class, or for one of my classes I took in my last semester of senior college, the Hero and Sages course, which was an interesting course, where I think we watched that in between, I think, like Norma Ray and Gandhi.
Okay.
Yeah. Princess Mononoke was also in there, weirdly enough. But
point stands that Hero is a much better example to get someone into wuxia than this. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is just devoid of character. And I'll let someone else, I'm about done because I can explain some of my points about devoid of character later.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I guess
go next?
Yeah, sure. Torpid likes to go last.
I like heading up the rear. What can I say?
Torpid might be doing something else at the moment. So as far as I feel about it, so if I did my math right, this movie came out when I was 15, and it was fucking everywhere. It was a big deal. To my credit, I was kind of a boring person throughout my 15s and 20s to like a certain point, because I was very entrenched in stuff. Like, if it wasn't put in front of me, I probably wasn't going to seek it out. And obviously, since this movie was fucking everywhere, I saw it and I was like, all right, this is cool. But I never got into wuxia because of it. I had never even bothered to look any further than that. And it hasn't actually been till about my 30s where I started to open up a little bit about music in my 20s, but like more stuff in my 30s. Moving onwards, I'm kind of like, exploring and stuff. So watching this with all the stuff that we've seen so far, having done this has expanded my horizons quite a bit. Going back to this actually kind of felt a little bit painful. Not in like an overtly offensive way, or like it's not like it's an incompetent film. It's very well shot. The choreography for most of the fights, everything except one fight, were really, really good. But the problem the movie has is that it's got these cool action scenes, and then in between, it's these extremely boring, like just pulled apart, like not pulled apart. God, I'm making the motion where you pull. It's a lot of belabored scenes that just kind of go nowhere, and nobody seems like they're having any fun. I know this is supposed it's supposed to be kind of serious, but everybody looks and sounds like they are either on Quaaludes or they're just straight up bored. And there's
It's
just
a lot of melodrama, and none of it's particularly interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because like when I think of melodrama, I think of people who are animated, people who are drama. Watching watching Contradiction. What was the one? A lot of the characters were really expressive.
Yeah,
And that was where a lot of that drama, that melodrama, came from in that game. Was just that expression. I'm not bringing it up just because somebody's currently playing it right now.
I
It's
mean
really
that's
good. The
about
scene
like
where two people are trying to fucking outact each other.
yeah,
It was Paul Darrow and the lead.
it's Rupert Booth.
Right. Like you take that scene, it's two people who have pretty good acting chops, but they're put into this sort of B grade product. And so what do? Oh, they just go right into it. They are absolutely just enunciating words and giving glances and, little reactions here and there. And there's all this great vocal and visual things going on just on their face. And nothing like that happens in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. You get these fights, and the fights are cool. They've got swords clanging together. You've got people grabbing fucking maces and slamming shit. There's a scene, and we're gonna talk about it as a group later, but that was also really cool. Like, there's a lot of cool ideas. Even the worst fight scene, in my opinion, which was the bamboo tree scene, still had this air of interest to it. People trying to fight while on top of bamboo trees, and it's lots of shit waving back and forth, and things are happening. And these scenes are all good, but then they're vastly undercut by all these almost unnecessary half the time scenes of people talking. Like, as far as I remember from the plot, the key thing is that an ancient sword is stolen, and everybody wants to get it back. And then it's revealed that it was stolen by the daughter of some rich people who got into it with a bandit and fell in love and all that. She got dragged back and was forced to marry somebody. So I guess to prove something, she went and stole the sword and then whatever. Like, it's not a good plot. It's not interesting. It is a revenge plot to some degree, but it's not an interesting revenge plot, as Carnival said. It's extremely boring. And honestly, having watched it 2 hours long, by the way, I'm happy I can remember any of it at all, because it's just not a good. It's not, like I say, it's not an incompetent film, but I don't think it was very well paced and very well written. I know
The ending was bad.
the ending was funny. Honestly, I wouldn't even call it bad. I thought it was pretty goddamn funny.
I have a
As
slight
an
feeling
ending,
that's
it's bad, but it
Yes,
is
yes.
very funny.
Yes, I agree.
I very much feel like Ang Lee was not intending that scene to be incredibly hilarious.
No, he wasn't.
The problem is it's the 2000s. It was literally in 2000 when this film came out, and they really hadn't gotten CGI down that well. They used a lot of green screens, and they were obvious green screens.
And
Just-
that was all fucking wires and shit. It was great.
Yeah.
I actually, one thing which I saw, the only use of CG in that movie was to remove the wires.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The only was removing the wires because they shot on location, because China is very happy to, like, if you're going to do something and you're not going to cause problems, the Chinese government's very happy to let you shoot on location.
It's actually kind of funny because if you go to the location or like the Wikipedia page for the actual location of where that bridge scene at the end is, you basically take a look at it and it's that bridge. Like, it almost looks like it was a shot from the movie.
Yeah, no, like, China has a bunch of really cool vistas, and that was kind of this gets to my point of, like, Ang Lee specifically, when creating this film, wanted to set up and created a China of the imagination, which Ang Lee is a Taiwanese film director, is of person of Taiwanese descent, which I understand why that was the exact decision he made there, because that's like, okay, you don't want to ruffle feathers because, again, you want to live. But that's kind of my problem is, like, no, if you're going to do something in China, you find what era you're in and you make it, you kind of stick to it, because it's like China is one of the countries we have the best amount of records for, so you can create a stylized look of an era very easily, and it's like you're going to have a much stronger film or any work if you kind of lean into what your era set.
Yeah.
Yeah, who would have guessed in the country that's big on bureaucracy?
Yeah. Like I know it's adapted from a book, and I only know that because you told me. Because again, I didn't really when I watched it originally, I didn't really dig too deep into it. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. All right.
To be fair, watching it, you wouldn't think, wow, this is a book.
Also,
Right.
I think they don't even say in like the opening where they usually say based on a novel by blah blah blah. I don't
Well,
think they even have that.
The Chinese government was not a fan of the guy who wrote this book, so
Also, this is 1940s China, which is an interesting era, so to speak.
Yeah.
so like again,
Yeah, the wonderful term they have for and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like thinking back to whatever marketing I can remember, and I don't think it was ever marketed as an adaptation. It was just marketed as Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
again,
was not.
The
no,
fucking
it
West
was,
would care.
yeah,
Yeah.
no one in those.
Let's see.
None of his books, I think, maybe one of his books have been has an English translation. There are more translations in French than there are in English of any of the 5 books that in the series that this film is based off. Which is this was book 4, if I remember correctly, right,
Yeah,
Lola?
it's 4 or 5.
So yeah, like that's the thing is like just his books are foundational to the genre, but if you're not Chinese or know how to read Chinese, you're probably not gonna get it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I found a thing of the
Even
poster.
thinking of it as an adaptation of a book, it's still kind of bad because you start off with the stealing of the sword, and then you've got a bunch of fight scenes, and then just it doesn't even transition well. Like all I remember is looking away and looking back, and now we're in the fucking desert. Like,
Well, that's the best part. Is the desert bit was in the past, but it wasn't like immediately apparent.
yeah, and that's one thing that one of the big things about that was, when you're gonna do something in the past, you need to make it apparent that this is something happening in the past, and usually you use like a filter or even just simply have the characters start talking and do the wibbly wobbly transition to the thing. Like you could just go ahead and do something shitty and cheesy like that. It's fine. But you got to indicate that you're now in the past because then it's just fucking confusing. And then it catches up to the present. You're like, oh, okay. I didn't like any of that. But all right. Now we have our explanation as to what's happening. It's still boring, but now I know.
She just wants to fuck her desert husband.
Yeah.
It's also great because she looks like she's the exact same age. Like that's supposed to be like a flashback, like years in past, if I remember correctly. But yeah, she looks the same age.
We never actually get any idea of how long this has taken over, so it may have been. We don't know if it's years or not. That's the thing.
Well, because the entire point is that it probably wouldn't have been long, all things considered, because it was her father realizing, oh, hey, she's been deflowered. We gotta fucking marry her ass off while she's still worth anything.
Yeah, pretty much. And
so, like, it probably actually wouldn't have been super long.
There could have been some ways to tighten it. Like we really didn't need.
No, you can't tighten it once it's done. It's fine. Just kegels.
Tarp it.
Not
Tarp
that
it.
way.
Tarp it.
It's bad.
I will spritz you. I swear to God. Okay. But no, like you could take that entire flashback. You could take the entire flashback, cut it in half. Because most of what happens is not fucking important.
Well,
like,
yeah, because literally the way it starts off is chick gets her comb stolen, and then immediately fucking runs after the guy to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, and then falls in love with him. Because, sure.
Yeah, and then the falling in love bit just takes forever.
Yeah. Like, that whole section, like, it's just like Guyver, too, all over again.
Yeah.
Like, it starts off cool and interesting, and then it just has this massive dip where fucking nothing happens. It's just nonsense. And then finally near the end, we're like, oh shit, yeah, we're a movie. We should do some stuff. And then you actually get some cool action scenes. And I also remarked while we were watching that I appreciate the movie's ability to incorporate degrees of slapstick, to which it's not a lot of attention drawn to it. There's some movies where they do the slapstick and then they like shove it right in your face and it's just magnifying. It's like, look how funny this is. and this movie does it more naturally. It's just like the one scene where she's fighting off people, and she puts a sword up behind her to stop a guy from attacking her, and she just bumps him on the head and then just keeps on going. Like it's just a natural thing that happens. And I like that. I like that it doesn't go too goofy. It knows just the right amount of level of goofy it needs to make that sort of work. I wanted to say kind of like Jackie Chan, but Jackie Chan, I think, sometimes puts it under the microscope a little too often, but neither here nor there. This movie does it does have a bit of comedy to it, and it is a little bit funny, sometimes intentional, sometimes not intentional, the ending. And it's an interesting film from a cultural and historical standpoint, but I don't think, looking back on it, that it actually it doesn't age well, and it doesn't stand well on its own. When, as both of you mentioned, there are far better films to look at from the genre, and you, Lolo, mentioned it too. My brain's not good today. So knowing that this is basically a watered down version of a genre to appeal primarily to white people in the West is a little disappointing, but at least in some way it is kind of an entry point to the genre, which is, I mean, I also mentioned too, a good metaphor or a good example is Ring, the early 2000s horror film, and how that brought Japanese horror and Asian horror to the West, and it brought people into a whole new genre that they weren't even aware of. But I argue that as a product was a lot better than Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was, because Ring had a solid story, solid acting. There was a lot of emotion. There was a lot of drama, tension. It had all the necessary things for a horror movie. So it was a very successful entry point, and it was also accessible too. Whereas Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, they had to take something and basically distill it and boil it down instead of being. It probably wouldn't have succeeded if it was a full-on film within the genre. It's wuxia, right? Wuxia?
Yeah.
Wuxia. If it were to go as hard as some of the films y'all were mentioning during the viewing, I don't think it would have been such a cultural touchstone in terms of films, and I definitely don't think it would have succeeded in bringing the genre to the West. And that just feel, I guess that's more of an indictment of the West than it really is of the film. But regardless, it is still a watered down film, and that is ultimately disappointing. There's absolutely no performance within the film in terms of the acting and dialogue scenes that I can even remark on. They're all equally boring. Like the very end, Chow Yun-fat's character gets poisoned, and he barely reacts. He's like, "Yeah, I'm dying. Oh dear, I'm dying. Oh no, I'm dead." And that's about as much emotion that's actually given. That's probably the only time that Michelle Yeoh actually emoted throughout the entire goddamn film, and even then it felt kind of stilted, So my too long didn't read. It is an interesting film with really cool fight scenes that ultimately falls apart due to bad pacing and mediocre acting.
All right. Also, I do want to make a note for those who are listening. Who, if you're wondering, we're talking about wuxia. If you see, wuxia is spelled WUXIA. So if you see that is wuxia. Just because it's one of those words that it's like you probably see it and it's like wuxia, but no, it's wuxia. That's what we're talking about with wuxia. All right, so I think the only one who hasn't talked yet is Torpo, right?
Yeah, I guess technically me. Yeah, sure.
All right, Torpo, what did you think of this movie?
Wasted potential. it's how I would describe it. It is a movie that I kind of checked out for a good chunk of it. Like, when I say I checked out, I mean, like, I was watching it definitely, but I was not interested for a good chunk of it. Because, like, it starts off with a kind of neat fight, Then it goes into the Jade Fox fight. What's her name? Yeah, I think that was her
Yes.
name.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jade Fox.
That fight was a lot of fun. And then there's this huge lull in the middle where they then, basically talk about the sword that I really got annoyed by because it is a fucking thin, warped piece of metal and utterly
ugly.
fucking worthless. It is
Ugly.
ugly as shit too, and the engraving's bad.
That prop sucks. Like,
Yeah, it was
That prop sucked real bad.
horrible.
Because the idea is it's supposed to be an incredibly thin blade that can cut through anything, but also is very clearly just a piece of warped metal, and it looked.
Every time it's pointed at the screen, you were like, I could see it warped.
It was so warped. It was incredibly visibly warped.
It was.
But yeah, so the idea is basically the main character, basically cool legendary sword. Somebody trying to steal it, find out. Oh hey, the woman trying to steal it is in fact the daughter of the household. Yada yada. She was trained in martial arts, very good at it. Then we go back in time to learn about her and her lovely desert husband, who she tried to beat the fuck out of. And that entire subplot was some of the most uninteresting fucking romance dreck I've ever watched. And
yeah,
I enjoy a good romance, but this was fucking bland as shit. Oh my god. And I also hate the whole getting kidnapped but falling for your kidnapper thing. That don't feel great.
Mm-hmm.
Which is basically what happened. And then they fucked. Then she went back. Her dad tried to sell her off, basically, because she was used goods. So she stole the sword and left. And then just tried to find her desert husband again. And that was basically the rest of the movie, is people trying to fucking beat her ass for stealing the sword and find her desert husband again. And the actual story and pacing of the story was really, really terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some good fight scenes. Like, as I said, the Jade Fox one early on was pretty fun, kind of goofy, but fun for it. And then later on, so we were talking about a couple of them. One of the big ones is the in-fight scene, where the main character, having stolen the sword and tooling around with the sword, because she's actually a very skilled martial artist and good with the blade, has basically just been going to tea houses, tooling around, and people challenging her to fights, and she just beats the shit out of them handily, fucks them up, makes a huge mess out of the place, and leaves. And it was kind of great, because it was some really solid choreography combined with a bit of decent slapstick, which tends to work well in wuxia, honestly.
yep.
Of any genre. Because it's all so over the top that, like, it works. It works a lot
And
more.
it's good
often
use
than
of the
not.
space too.
It made very good use of the space and of the actors. It was very well choreographed, and that was one of the two strong scenes, one of the two strong fights of the film. The other one, my personal favorite, is when basically the lady who's been helping her this entire time realizes the shit she's trying to pull and tries to deter her from her path. And so they get into this huge fight where the main character has her sick fucking legendary sword, and she's fighting the other person in this ring with all kinds of weapons around it. So the lady she's fighting basically throughout the entire fight keeps hitting her, like keeps going at her with different weapons that are basically getting shredded to pieces by this fucking sword over and over. And it was really, really fun and really cool to watch this lady basically just constantly switching weapon types, trying to fucking beat the sword. And I thought it was a really good scene. And then the bamboo scene happens, and it's kind of bland. Also, in between, the guy she was working with died from poison due to Jade Fox, because the main character basically betrayed Jade Fox by not letting her see all of the martial arts teachings that she had available. So Jade Fox was pissed. Jade Fox lost. Dude died from the poison, despite the main character having learned her lesson, trying to go out of her way to save him. And then she finds her desert husband and jumps off a cliff. The end. That's the film.
Pretty much.
It was also the funniest shit when she jumped off that fucking bridge. Because, like, Carnival mentioned when we were watching it, but basically it's supposed to be ambiguous because in the film she didn't die at the end. So it's like, oh, did she die or did she not? But it's really good because it's some fucking real wire foo shit. So you should see her slowly descending, arms outstretched, off this cliff, and it is the funniest shit. Because it's so completely out of fucking nowhere, too. Because it's like, she finally found Desert Husband. Maybe she can just fucking stop being such a shit. No, she jumped off a bridge because fuck you, I guess.
Yeah. It's a frustrating movie. It really is frustrating.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a shame.
I get it's just part of me is like I don't know how much more I can save just because it's like we've covered. It's like it's just we've got like 3 or 4 good fight scenes, and then you can just kind of like if you want to experience this, just get a super cut of the fight scenes, and there you go.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
one fight scene we've kind of hinted at, but we didn't really talk about, and it definitely deserves to be talked about because I think it's my personal favorite fight scene, to be honest, and that is when Jen, I think her character is, and Yushu sort of clash, and Yushu tries to stop Jen, and so they're fighting in this room just filled with weapons. Didn't you mention this, Torpid? I forget.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a great scene because again, it's great use. It's a single room. There's just this really great use of space. You feel like the room's much bigger than it really is. And basically, Jen's got the sword, and she's cutting all the weapons that Yushu grabs in half. And Yushu's just grabbing every fucking weapon off of the rack. And it's very clever use of the props and the space, and it's a really interesting and kind of funny fight, but it's also really cool. Because it really shows that Yushu has a lot more knowledge than Jen. She's just outmatched by this really shitty looking sword. Yeah.
No.
What, did everybody just tune out while I'm talking?
No, it's just that the sentence ended very abruptly.
And like,
I am so paranoid about things dropping that it's like, okay.
I mean, if anybody else wants to chime in on that, I think that's my favorite fight scene, to be honest.
Yeah, that was a really good fight.
yeah,
I said it had, in my opinion, the best choreography of any fight in that film.
yeah, like again, both the infight and the weapon fight, both excellent. It's like I guess I feel like we can probably just go to the ranking at this point because like
Yeah, does anyone? Well, first
what are your
off,
opinions, Lolo?
Yeah.
I had to skip over Lolo. It's Carnival.
I mean, I really haven't been saying much because I don't really have any feelings on it because, I've mentioned, I've seen Hero, actually, which Carnival brought up, which that was a pretty good. Like, I didn't even think about that as a wuxia film, but now I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that definitely probably would be. And I've seen great films like Return of Bastard Swordsman, which I kept on saying during the thing. It's like, man, this just makes me really want to watch that. So after we were done watching, I went and it's available. Saw it was available on YouTube. I'm like, oh hey, it's like, oh, it's 2.5 hours long.
Worth it.
It is, but also that's 2.5 hours long.
You gotta
Okay,
block
but
out
let me tell you
time.
about my boy, Doogu Woody. Okay?
Yes.
And how fucking awesome Doogu Woody is.
Like, you don't just sit down and watch a 2.5 hour movie. You fucking prepare for that.
I mean, then again, I'm also the person who has the uncut version of Red Cliff, which is 5 hours long.
Christ.
I mean, yeah, you are a man who goes to bat for fucking Heat, so...
Yeah, also, yes, Heat. Yes. But yes. I thought it was fine. But, well, I thought it was not offensive, but wasted potential, I feel, is a good way to describe it. I don't think it's a bad movie. I probably will never have an urge to watch it again. And that's not in the way that you, like, talk about, I don't know, Schindler's List, not wanting to watch it again, which is, like, as, like, a oppressive movie. It's just, I don't think I'll ever have, like, a thing where it's like, I'll watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, unless it's like, that is literally the only thing that's on, in which, I'll watch it and it'll be fine. But, yeah, I just, a lot of the fight scenes are good. I do want to say, like, actually going on to Axe, what you were saying with the addition of slapstick, there just seems to be characters that are just, you're the buffoon type, where it's weird, like, the father figure that Jade Fox is trying to assassinate definitely was one of those kind of characters. A bunch of characters in were those kind of characters, And the one with the first Jade Fox fight was actually really weird because it's like, oh, this like they're trying to assassinate his dad, and it's like, oh, he's like getting smacked out of the way and like all that, and then he just gets this ring like weird chakram thing just embedded in his head.
Halfway into his skull, it was impressive.
It was
Yeah.
an effect that was very out of place for the film because the film was mostly bloodless, but then you just have this very visceral scene of a dude with a blade through his face, and it's just like it felt out of place to me.
Well, so it's funny
Yeah.
you mentioned that. Speaking of out of place, that's another thing too. Is like the fight scenes were very energetic, and as I said, they had some slapstick, which is really counter to the actual melodrama of the general film's plot, which is weird. It's a film very bad at managing tone and keeping consistent, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. As I say, with that, does anyone have any other things they want to say before we rank?
No.
Max, you got anything?
No, I think I've got it out of my system.
All right. Let's go to the ranking. So we're gonna rank this using our normal 1 to 21 scale, with 1 being absolute mastercraft, kind of not be incredibly hard to make the film any better, to 21, which is pretty garbo and just not even fun, ironically, to watch. So, X, what is your number?
Well, I'd say 13.
13? All right. Carnival.
13 at highest. Well, the floor is 16.
All right. Torpo.
When my scroll wheel starts to work, I will let you know what I think. So let's see. Do I find this more watchable than Dick Tracy?
There you go. There's the benchmark.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was at too. Was like,
Does Dick Tracy have really sweet combat scenes? I don't think so.
No.
So then, like, how would I compare it to Batman 1989? You know what? I think I would put it on level with Batman 1989. So yeah, 14 would be.
All right. So, funnily enough, Dick Tracy was also the one that I was taking a look at, because I was wondering last night. I'm like, okay, where did I place it? And then I saw Dick Tracy, and I'm like, that is the exact level that I'd put that at. So I was
Dick
thinking
Tracy
15.
is what I call the Great Wall of Boring.
Yeah, which, funnily enough, I think that this also could go right in
Yeah.
there.
Like, Dick Tracy is like my go-to if I find something very bland.
Because I
And
think,
like, do I consider the prose of it comparable to Dick Tracy's? Because like that is my go-to at this point for like, this thing is boring, but how boring is it?
And with that consideration, it's like, yeah, 14 is probably where it goes because it ekes out over Dick Tracy, but just barely. If there was one less fight scene into the right into the Dick Tracy like tier, it would be going.
yeah, the yellow territory is basically what I consider the boring zone, where it's just like, none of these things that are in 13, 14, or 15 are necessarily bad, or if they are bad, they have some really good things to like counteract it, but kind of just they'll kind of balance on bad, or balance on the negative more than positive. And I feel like this is a perfect candidate to be in that area. Which
The
if that
Event Horizon, Dick Tracy.
So if that's the case, then that between all of us, that we balance out at 14. So let's see. 14, we got Batman 1989, City Hunter Season 1, and Mega Man Upon a Star.
Yeah, so the reason I compared it to 1989 Batman is like that similar level of mixed bag. Like there's some really neat set pieces in Batman, but also a lot of it's also fairly bland.
Also
And, like,
rhubarb.
okay, that's a different piece entirely. But like that's what I would put this at too, is like there's some neat little pieces here and there spattered about, despite being an otherwise very bland product. Boring product because I slammed very and boring together. Fuck me.
Mm.
I need to catch that.
That's what I get up in the mornings for boring product. But when I say rhubarb, I mean I feel like they both also have a similar issue with the writing. Like the writing just for some reason clashes with things that are happening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned that. Yeah, Batman I feel is a really good comparison because that is a film that is very much style over substance, which I feel is also something that can apply to this. Just to put it at the floor, because I don't think it's quite 16 territory, which by that I mean I think it's a better movie than Fatal Fury, the motion picture. At 15 we got Dick Tracy and Salamander. Dick Tracy didn't like it. So Dick Tracy, if you like the aesthetic, you'll probably like the movie. If you don't like the aesthetic, that movie is just complete garbage. And Salamander is like the same thing with Crouching Tiger, but even more so. Like that as the fights, the quote unquote, what you can consider the fight scenes of Salamander are not even as good as the fight scenes in this. So I can definitely see this being 14 floor.
Yeah, that checks out for me.
Just to put also the ceiling of this, at 13 we have GamePro TV and the professional GoGo 13. GamePro, I think we're going to set that aside. But GoGo 13 is at least it is a startling movie through and through. Like there's no real chill to that movie. It's just what it puts on screen is sometimes kind of jarring.
Trashy. Very trashy.
It's a very yeah, I agree. That's the word I would use.
It is very trashy, but also
It's not
I feel like
necessarily a bad thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like I had a better time watching The Professional GoGo 13.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
so that's what I was thinking too when I was looking at the numbers, is like GoGo 13 had some really fucking cool scenes, like the tower bit. Like the fucking ad sign was really good. And like this has fewer scenes like that, and also they aren't as long.
Yeah.
Whereas like for GoGo, those really neat set pieces tended to dominate large chunks of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, because like the most interesting parts of the film go by so quickly, and then they focus so much on the least interesting. I think that I agree with that. That was very frustrating. Like I want to see more of these fights. I want to see more. Like talk to me more about the styles that she learned and show her going through them. You know, I would have loved to see her training rather than that whole fucking desert shit. I don't care about that. I care about, you know, the martial arts, the action. Show me more of that.
Yeah. So I think in that case, I think 14 is where it's got to go.
Yep, I agree.
Mhm.
So we're going to put that at 14. Okay, so got all that filled in. Nothing content-wise that I can think of. Because it is it is bloodless.
Yeah, even
like,
even the scene with the guy with the blade in his head, there wasn't any blood.
Yeah. And then no real sexualization or anything. I mean, there was the one scene where their top was wet, but that is literally it. And even then, that's not meant to be
Nipples
sexual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't
But
deliberate
yeah.
though, no.
Yeah. And like
No.
there was nudity, but it was cut off at just the right spots, and it wasn't really focused on. So I wouldn't even say it was very salacious either.
Yeah. So I'm not even a call. I don't think there's really anything worth calling out for that.
No.
So, is there anything we want to call out in music, charm, cinematography, storytelling? Hold on. I lost where are them. Music, charm, cinematography, storytelling, action, and art.
Action.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, action's a thumbs up. I would say down for the charm because it was a very charmless, very dull affair.
I would say cinematography because those were some excellent location
Oh.
shots.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Very good location shot. Yeah, come to find out, China, this absolutely fucking massive country, has a lot of different biomes in it. Shocker.
And quite a beautiful country at that.
Yep. Music I barely remember.
The music was kind of there. It wasn't. I wouldn't put anything for it.
Yeah. Storytelling.
Down.
Wasted potential.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, actually, Wasted Potential, I think is
Such a disappointing film.
I thought I had. Yeah, that's Wasted Potential.
Hmm?
There we go. Let's see, and then like the style was also kind of bland. Like there really wasn't any. Like it's a very down to earth movie.
Yeah, no, we didn't get some of the high wuxia, low cultivation novel stuff. So like, yeah, it's kind of bland.
In other wuxia films, like more pure ones, is there a lot more interjections during fights, or is it mostly
It's
silent?
a lot more animated.
Yes,
Okay.
you will have people doing nice speeches during the middle of fight scenes and like
Not even just like speeches, just a noise. Like all of the fights were noiseless almost. Like everybody was just so quiet.
No, a lot happens in your usual sort of wuxia thing.
Yeah.
no, you hear people yelling and just giving shit talk all the time. Like
Once again, let me tell you about my boy Dooga Woody and his chair foo.
yes,
Because yeah, that's something I forgot to mention is just how silent the fights were, and it was just so weird because I'm used to media where there's a fight, everybody's like like grunts, groans, yells, like act like you're there.
Yeah, this was a lot more down to earth for a wuxia film, which that being down to earth has like benefits in some stories. This was not one of those. So, yeah, that's not great. For yays and nays, obviously one that we definitely need to do is that snail. Pacing in this is not great. Also, I think I just removed the snail from something.
yeah, it was.
There we go.
Guyver.
Just like I said, like it was Guyver 2 all over again. You start off strong and then it just drops like a rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
You forgot the oatmeal.
Yeah, oatmeal.
I was
that bad
wondering if
boy up.
oatmeal. Well, thankfully, Saturday Supercade has 2 of them that I can borrow.
Like, damn, it's Chow Yun Fat. How do you get Chow Yun Fat and not put him to use?
But
Like,
actually, that also reminds me, it's like, what will be the third one? Wasted potential. This
Yeah.
movie's just wasted potential.
To be fair, I think that this movie was the one that like got Chow Yun Fat.
So, I was actually curious about that, and if I take a look, I think I saw him, he was in something else first. Let me take a look. I forgot. He was in The Replacement Killers.
mm.
So
But I think
he's,
Carnival's right. This is the movie that kind of put him on the map, at least for the Western audiences.
Yep. Also, I was
Even
going to say
still.
Michelle Yeoh, but no. Tomorrow Never Dies came out before those.
Yeah, no, Tomorrow Never Dies came out, and she was also part of the Jackie Chan opera. So like,
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Oh, actually, no. Well, depends because Hardboiled came out before this.
okay, that's right. Hard
Yeah,
Boiled.
how can you have seen Hard Boiled and then go, well, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? Like,
Well, Chow Yun Fat was a replacement because Jet Li didn't take the role.
Which is probably funny because he was probably just doing Hero.
No, he wasn't. Heroes 2005.
I could not.
Hero was 2002.
Really? Oh.
I could not put Jet Li in this role because Jet Li, I have a lot of respect for Jet Li as both a martial artist and an actor, and he would not have fit this film. I don't think he could have pulled off the level of bland that this film aspired to.
Also, man, I forgot that he was Master Roshi in that Dragon Ball movie.
We'll talk about that movie. No.
We'll get there. We will get there.
We'll get there.
No.
Also,
I just as soon we not.
Also, the thing he did right before that Dragon Ball movie is that he was in VeggieTales.
Ooh. I like an actor with
Noted
range.
Christian.
Well, it's also great because IMDb lists it as VeggieTales Fitness Hoff. Like it looks like the website broke. But anyway, yeah. So Chow Yun Fat, like this could be one that kind of elevated him. But yeah, technically he was here before, or like he could have been known for more stuff. It probably definitely helped him. But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that.
Probably the same direction that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon went.
Yeah, probably.
Nowhere.
All right. Anyone have any last things? Do we want to put anything for Ye? Can't really think of anything.
It's
Not really.
over.
Yeah.
Did we put in nay too goddamn long because it was too goddamn long?
Okay, so
Do you have room for 4?
I don't think I have room for 4. 3 is enough.
Yeah,
I'll replace the wasted potential so long because I feel 2 hours is it's 2 hours on the dot pretty much. So yeah, it's just that's kind of way too long. All right. Any last words?
Nope.
Nah.
All right. So before we head out, Axe, is there anything you want to plug?
Of course. The Autistic Self Advocacy Network, and also in America it is the ASPCA. There is also SPCAs in different areas. Look up your local one. Adopt, please don't shop.
All right, Carnival.
Your local bail fund or mutual aid fund.
Torpo.
Twitch.tv/torpotypist and at torpotypist on Twitter. And I would like to plug the gap in my fucking memory left by the huge swaths of nothing in this.
Yeah. All right. So I actually am going to do a slight schedule change because I originally had something planned. But after this, I'm actually going to swap the 2 movies that I had in mind because I feel like it will be a better palate cleanser for, I guess. I feel like this will be a better flow. So also technically I'm doing this a smidge early, but also I'm about 99% it's going to win. So we're going to actually do the Retro Rank Relief Drive winner for quarter 1 because it got a pretty significant lead. And we are going to take a look at Rock and Rule, which I put in there because it is a movie that has quite a bit of notoriety to it. The thing that I knew about it, or that at least I heard about it, was that it was animated by the people who do the animated segments from the Star Wars Holiday Special. Also features a lot of licensed music, but thankfully I'm not streaming it, so it doesn't matter. Also, I believe it is one of those lovely Canadian animated features, like the same as like or heavy metal, though I'm pretty sure this is not as violent or as jarring as heavy metal was. Also, it's like an hour and 15 minutes, so thankfully it's not going to be forever.
No bitches.
We gotta stop watching these long ass fucking things.
Yeah.
I
Well,
say being the one that got us to watch Phenomena.
I mean, now that I think about it, because how long is the thing?
I think
Long
it's-
enough.
Because isn't that 2 hours?
Long enough.
It's hour 50 minutes.
Long enough.
And then I think, how long is Ashen's in the Quest for the Game Child? That one, I think that one's actually surprisingly long, if I remember correctly. Oh, it's hour 30. Never mind.
Surprisingly long at an hour 30.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah, let's go and do it. I can't think of anything else. Thank you all for listening.
Bye!
If you would like to see the list in which we have ranked every single thing we've done for Media Delta, you can go to r3.ldp.life in your browser. If you would like to watch the sister show that determines what could show up on Media Delta, that's Retro Rank Rhapsody, you can watch it live on Twitch at twitch.tv/LoloThePuzzler or on YouTube at youtube.ldp.life. If you would like to discuss this episode with others, please join our Discord server by going to discord.ldp.life in your browser, which should give you a link. Thank you again for listening.